The beast rising from the sea. The fact that the beast is summoned up from the sea by the dragon, representing Satan, shows conclusively that the allegory of chapter 12 continues here, and that what we have in this passage is a symbolic, as opposed to a literal description. Whatever one may personally feel about the oceans of the world, it is undeniable that in terms of biblical symbolism, the picture we receive from the scripture of the sea, which is generally equated with death and the netherworld, is anything but positive. Genesis 1:2. For in the symbolism of the Bible, the sea, the abyss, death, Sheol, and Hades are essentially synonymous. Compare Revelation 17:8, where the beast comes out of the abyss. This rising of the beast from the sea is therefore meant to convey a rising up from death, and more specifically, from a place symbolic of evil. This is true in a twofold sense, applying equally both to the revived Roman Empire of the beast and to Antichrist, the personal beast himself, each of which have in their own separate ways been given a new lease on life, if only for a very short while, and if only for the perpetuation of the most horrendous evil and devastation. Daniel said, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the four winds of heaven churning up the great sea. Four great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea." Daniel 7:2 and 3. The final beast of the four described by Daniel in these verses is, of course, Rome, Daniel 7:7, and not only historical Rome, but also revived Rome under the rule of the little horn, namely Antichrist, Daniel 7:8. Thus, the image of the dragon summoning the beast serves to identify Satan as the one responsible for the rule of Antichrist, both in terms of the establishment of a one-world empire of evil and in the empowerment of its emperor. Inasmuch as heaven is the place of God, and the earth is the place where the conflict between God and the devil, which explains so much of human history, is being fought out, the figure of the sea, or abyss, as the devil's and Antichrist's symbolic realm, is all the more perspicuous. And even this symbolic realm will be put under the Messiah's feet when he returns. Compare the angel coming down from heaven, prefiguring the second advent, who places one foot on the sea as well as one on the earth, Revelation 10:1-3. As the symbolic realm of Satan, and the place of every sort of diabolical monster, Job 3:8, Isaiah 27:1, and Amos 9:3, it should come as no surprise, then, that from the sea will arise the most terrifying satanic beast in all of human history, Antichrist. The specific description of the beast in these verses, Revelation 13:1-3, has been sufficiently covered in our prior treatment of Antichrist in the preceding installment of this series, Part 3b, Antichrist. It must suffice here to recall the interpretation of the details given there in regard to this passage. The sea. The sea suggests the beast's evil origin and represents resuscitation from death of both the empire and its emperor. The seven heads. The seven heads primarily represent the seven rulers of revived Rome, allied with Antichrist from the beginning of his rise. In Revelation 17:9-11 we discover that they also have a secondary symbolic meaning, for they also represent the original 6 emperors of Rome, with Antichrist being the 7th emperor of revived Rome. In terms of the primary application of the seven heads, Antichrist is the 8th, Revelation 17:11, that is, he too is a head, but a head in his own right, and the primary head at that. In terms of the secondary application of the seven heads, Antichrist is one of the seven, Revelation 17:11, that is, he is the next dominant emperor to arise after Nero, the 6th and last of the Julio-Claudians falls from power in 69 AD. The 10 horns with crowns. The 10 crowned horns represent the 10 kingdoms and their kings, 3 of whom support Antichrist surreptitiously and only become part of his kingdom of revived Rome after the defeat of the Southern Alliance in the middle of the tribulation. The single blasphemous name on the 7 heads. The name of blasphemy is the 7-letter Greek word, that is, Christ, written distributively on the 7 heads, blasphemously and falsely asserting Antichrist's status as Messiah. Its presence on the 7 heads shows their full complicity in accepting and propagating the beast's false claim to be the Christ. The resemblance to a leopard. Inasmuch as the leopard is winged in Daniel 7:6, speed as well as treachery and ferocity are indicated. After his victory over the south, the beast will consolidate his one-world rule with exceptional rapidity and merciless force in those few instances where resistance is met. The four wings in Daniel likely represent the four quadrants of Alexander's empire, so that here, by extension, they can be seen to apply to the four quarters of the world and Antichrist's swift ascension to worldwide domination. The feet like those of a bear. The bear in Daniel 7:5 refers to the Persian Empire, which possessed bear-like tearing power based upon its massive mobilization potential, so that the reference to the bear's feet here represents the immensity of the military power which the beast's empire will be able to deploy. The mouth like that of lions. The winged lion in Daniel 7:4 refers to the lion-like bite of Nebuchadnezzar and his Babylonian empire, so that the reference here to the mouth of lions, plural, is an apt description of the formidable offensive capability available to the beast in the consolidation of his worldwide rule. The apparently fatal wound seemingly miraculously healed. This mortal wound on one of the beast's heads refers to the apparent revival of Rome, as well as to the apparent return to life of Antichrist. The fact that New Rome will in many important ways be different from historical Rome, and that Antichrist will only appear to return to life, will not reduce the wonder of the world at these ostensible miracles. The fact that the wound is found on one head only serves both to personalize the trauma to Antichrist, as well as to show that at this point in the tribulation, the beast will be identified primarily with a single member of the original 7 kingdoms of his revived Roman Empire, namely Israel, where his headquarters will be henceforth as he takes his seat in the temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Finally, in terms of the beast himself, the fact that the wound is on the head clearly foreshadows God's ultimate judgment upon him, Genesis 3:15, indicating for all who remember and believe the Genesis 3:15 prophecy that this is not the Christ, but Antichrist.